The journey to breaking free from addictions must begin with a proper estimate of our worth, of our capacity, and of our value in the eyes of God. Not in the eyes of another man, in the eyes of God. Welcome to my conversations on addiction. Today, let's go a little deeper in defining, in evaluating, in auditing our worth and our value in the eyes of God. God has already defined your value. He estimates your value to the apple of his eyes. Yes, his estimate of your value is the cost, the value, the price he places on his only begotten Son. That is how valuable you are. So God is done. God is settled when it comes to how valuable you are. But how you now value yourself going forward is more important than what anybody else thinks about you. As a matter of fact, there is also a sense in which even if God values you this much, but you value yourself this much, what difference does it make? It won't amount to any much thing. And so we have said when it comes to the grace of God, God is seeing his investments in you. He's seeing the potential, your capacity. He's seeing greatness because that's what he invested in. He's not seeing your present reality, your present limitations. He's seeing the endless possibilities that he has trapped inside of you. So today let's look at what is the true import of the grace of God. We have said that when God is expending grace, he doesn't measure grace on your worthiness, on your qualification, because your present reality cannot for any reason under any circumstance be measured with your potential, what you are capable of. And so even though grace is given to people who do not look deserving, who do not merit it, they don't have, it's not earned. You don't have anything today that makes you look like tomorrow. And so grace is given to you not based on today's capacity, but tomorrow's potential. But even though grace is given to people who do not deserve it, grace does not leave them the way it met them. That is something very important that we must come to terms with when it comes to the grace of God. Grace will make you worthy. Grace will qualify you. God picks up the foolish things of this world. He uses them to confound the wise, yes, but he doesn't leave them foolish. They don't continue to be foolish. They don't remain foolish. They become upgraded and become masterpieces. They become a masterpiece, epitomes, evidence of God's intelligence. This is so important. This is why when God gives grace, it's not economical. No, it's not economical because there should be no reason, no excuse why the recipient must not reach full potential, must not be able to deliver. That is why in scriptures you will always see words like great grace. It says in Acts chapter 4 verse 33, it was with great power the apostles gave testimony to the resurrection of Christ, and great grace was upon them. Because great grace was upon them, great power was the outcome. Great grace. You look at 1 Peter chapter 4, it describes the grace that is lavished, expended by God as the manifold grace of God, many-sided. And then when you go to Romans chapter 5 verse 13, it talks about abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness. Abundance of grace. It says, if one man's sin brings death upon all men, he says much more. If the effect of Adam's sin could globalize the sinfulness of man, he says the impact of the righteousness of Christ will also much more globalize righteousness. So he now says that to that extent, everyone who receives the abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness will reign in life. They will not be dominated. They will not be slaves of addiction. They will reign in life. Two things will empower them to reign in life: abundance, overdose, lavish grace, and the gift of righteousness. God is always lavish with grace, overdose. And so because and if you have become a recipient of grace by accepting Christ into your life, then it is not possible for a recipient of grace or for the purpose of grace not to be accomplished, not to fulfill purpose, if that recipient will understand what he has been given and then be able to maximize it. That is why grace is always accompanied with great power. It's always accompanied with the gift of righteousness. I want you to realize that when you accept Christ as the payment for your sins, as your substitute, abundance of grace is unleashed, but also importantly, the gift of righteousness accompanies abundance of grace. What the gift of righteousness does is that it first of all comes as a gift, a nature, then it graduates into a capacity for righteousness. So you are given abundance of grace, then you are given the gift of righteousness. You don't earn it, it's a gift. Then it now graduates into a capacity for righteousness. Therefore, it is only ignorance of what we carry that can make us carry such enormous, lavish grace and still be dominated and enslaved by an addictive lifestyle. And if you stay with me, I'm going to take you a little more deep into this so that you can know how to unleash the grace of God. Otherwise, you carry this grace of God in vain, carrying so much grace, yet so enslaved. God forbid. I'll be right back.